guys, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you today was about revolving business models. There's this guy online called Steve Blank, and he has a YouTube channel, or has a whole bunch of YouTube interviews rather, and basically he's a professor that says when you do startups and these new sort of entrepreneurial ventures, one of the things you've got to get used to is that you'll hit a hump in the road, and instead of having your set business model, which basically says you've got to go from A to B to C to D, and that's pretty much the way that you've got to do it. You create you invent a new product, and then you go through a testing phase, and then you kind of redevelop it, and then you go through a testing phase and that kind of thing. But what he says is that with a revolving business model, you basically go from product, inventing the product, to making some changes, to putting out a product to test, and then if the users have any suggestions or any of the feedback from the users means you need to really seriously look at reinventing your product from scratch, or at least part of the development cycle, then you actually have to visit that and have that part of that business model revolve back to where you sort of began with, and then redevelop the product, and then again try the production sort of version, and then do the testing phase and so forth. So basically what he's talking about is putting a product out there in the testing phase, and keep trying to get it right, and then making modifications and modifications and modifications until you finally actually get a product which makes your end consumer and your user base satisfied, at least to some degree that's within the scope of your business goals and aims. In terms of that type of business model, which is really sort of new and cutting edge, and it's kind of blatant to a lot of people, I guess, over in Silicon Valley and a lot of venture startups, this is a fantastic business model. But one of the things I just wanted to add on that, there's another type of business model where, and he may have actually covered this as well, but basically it's called a customer orientated approach. Basically what you do is you create a product from the customer's point of view. Now what I'm talking about is, instead of you've got a product in mind, say for example a type of website that performs a type of service to users that fulfills a need in the market in terms of a solution. Instead I'm talking about doing market research among a bunch of different consumers, and then identifying what it is in the market that they want and need as a product, and then developing the product around their needs and wants before any other product has sort of been created within the business. So getting that market research, whether it be 20,000 different types of people that you surveyed, and you talk to them, have generate a lot of feedback with them, and maybe some of them might throw some ideas and suggestions and things like that, and then basically you sit down and you work out a product that would actually cater for a market that you can see that will be a viable venture, and then you start developing it from there. And then you go through those steps, just like Steve Blank sort of says, where basically you develop the product and then test it with your consumer base, and they say, okay, sweet, we need to make some modifications, go back to the drawing board a little bit, or some part of the way through the drawing board, or add on this little feature, or take out this little feature here and there, and that kind of thing. And then basically you keep on developing it until you get the product that fits with your aims and goals of the company, and with your market size and that kind of thing as well, whatever that may be. Now, one of the things about this business cycle is that it's very linear. So you have, say for example, the invention of the product after the market research, perhaps, whichever way you may go with it, and then you develop the product, make a few modifications, and then you create a production phase version of it, and then you take it out to the market to test, just amongst some small portion of the market to test for free, or whatever it may be. That linear version of the actual product creation sort of cycle before it hits the market it allows for that revolving product cycle and business model, but at the same time it also but one of the things that it does is it creates in your business employees and business development team's mind that there should be a specific way, like an end goal of the actual end product to sort of what they're kind of aiming for, sort of thing. So basically, what I'm saying is that with some businesses, when you're doing venture startups, you kind of don't have an idea of what it is that you're sort of like, you might have an initial idea for an app, for example, and then you're like, okay, I'll make it like a social media app that's like Yak, but it actually has profiles so that people can actually see who's talking on the actual GPS maps of Google Maps, popping up in their posts in the neighborhood and that kind of thing, and they can see who's who and what's what, and they can comment on each other's posts, and they can say hi, fi, blah, blah, and that kind of thing online in front of everyone. So basically, you've got an idea for an app, and then you go forward with it and you go to develop it. Now, along the development cycle, you might come up with other ideas that need to be built-in features, so you're going to add those features in along the way. But one of the things that you've got to keep in mind is that during that straight linear road, you might hit a hump or a road bump. Now, what you need to do, literally, when you hit a road bump, is instead of going, okay, sweet, basically that's a bump, we need to like take a different direction with this, you obviously need to overcome that obstacle, get over that hump, and then continue doing it, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. But if that hump sort of is something that dictates that the end product now has a fault in it, at least in some part of the market that doesn't align with your goals, maybe you need to do one of two things. One, you need to either change the type of product that you're doing and go off on a different tangent sort of area, because basically the market might drive it that way. It might be more viable product with different features and with a different type of target market with a different main feature base. So for example, a Yak type app which has Google Maps in it might suddenly change to something that uses a whole bunch of avatars and online Wii, like the Wii console type of avatars and like meta avatars, or as this user profile characters, so that because apparently, say for example, this is just an example, I doubt it's actually true, but it's just an example that those profile characters, that are avatars that are animated and cartoony like, might actually be more favored by the market. So you sort of take that turn and take that tangent and go that way sort of thing with your product. The second thing, the other thing that you can do is that when you reach a hump in the road and you realize that your product isn't going to meet your end goals, your aim goals, that's the original product that you had in mind for your aim goals, then you need to change, perhaps you might want to look at changing your end goals and your aims to be able to coincide with a viable product, for one, and for two, you may need to be able to look at obviously changing some of the, obviously if you're looking at a different market and you weren't catering to a different market, you might literally have a massive different type of segmentation of market research to do and that kind of thing. So it's a big change. But the idea that I want to relay to you is basically that as that linear sort of business model on any of those sort of stretches that I talked about goes a long way, whether it be on like straight or on a tangent or on a bump or whatever, basically every single one of them might have hundreds of humps along the way, which take you in completely different directions, or hundreds of different problems that you need to overcome, or hundreds of different types of dependencies that you kind of like with different types of technologies that might be different updates, that kind of thing. They're all problems to be solved. So no matter what, even though, and like 9 times out of 10, most businesses, this is a long-term standing management statistic that we've used at Waikato University for at least 20 years, is that 9 times out of 10 businesses fail due to poor management. So that business model, when you're with your venture capitalists, you sit down and you have that meeting, and when you're with your business managers and your business development team, you need to have that discussion to say, hey, look, this app might actually sort of like, this is what we've got planned, these are our main aims and goals, and this is the market that we're looking to cater for, but it may take a different direction, and we need you to be fluid enough and agile enough to be able to make those changes with us. So should basically the product become viable in another market entirely, and the application went that way because it was way more lucrative, then it may go in that sort of direction. So make that very open and very clear to venture capitalists. I've read and seen a lot of YouTube videos where there's a lot of venture capitalists that basically they get on board with a business founder, whether it be a technical team and a development team, and then there's the capitalist team, and they basically get together and they're like, okay, this is the main goal that we've got in mind. Now this happens, like from what I see, probably more a lot in the sort of New Zealand mentality, but I can say for sure overseas there's a very sort of fast pace and quickly sort of learned, seems to be becoming a very quickly learnt sort of notion, is that venture capitalists need to be fluid and they need to be agile to move with the company in the direction that the company goes. No matter which way it goes, they need to do that. And that includes the 100 hurdles along the way, the 100 problems that they have to solve along the way. They have to be in it for the long haul. And if they don't, obviously they're in an exit strategy, but, and that's just like normal business sense sort of thing, but at the same time, if those technical experts and those developers and the co-founders all are literally driving their business towards being able to create a viable product in the market, they need that reassurance as well, venture capitalists, that those people are gonna, those resources are going to remain through the entire endeavor, all the way from product market research all the way to the finished product on the market, and also not only generating revenue and being put out into the masses, but also continual support throughout that the first several, and I won't say like name a figure or anything like that, but the first several years, whether it be, or months, or might be like, a decade or something or other, whatever it may be, they need to have something to rely on in terms of the resources so that they can actually get all the way there, sort of thing, and actually have enough capital to be able to reinvest and continue their endeavors, whatever they may be, after a suitable time. So yeah, I mean, not only obviously is it to be able to get a product to market, that the job isn't done then. There might be like 2 years of maintaining it and getting above ground net revenue zero, and then over that profit, that kind of thing. But also thinking about the future and where the company's going, and reinvesting that product, that capital after 2 years, that kind of thing. Which of course is a discussion you can have that later at the time. But basically, yeah, that's what I had to say about the revolving business model by Steve Blank, if you want to check him out on YouTube, and also the failing forward. Is that some resources, that some documentaries that I saw on Elon Musk, where basically he does a once a week meeting where they all huddle in the room and they basically say, right, what are our tasks for this week? So my advice to you, in terms of like, if you're creating a new venture endeavor and you've got a whole bunch of different like a product that you want to create, that you go from task to task to task. It doesn't matter what the schedule is. It doesn't matter what your expectations were and what kind of deadlines you like and that kind of thing. My advice is forget the deadlines. If you're creating a new app, for example, this is a good way to look at it. If you're creating a new app and you've got like a business model in mind, just throw it out the window. Because seriously, basically you go from task to task to task. So if some kind of roadblock comes along, you're free, your entire team is free to suddenly tackle it all together and quickly change with the market, with a massive amount of agility and, like I say, flexibility. And so if you work from task to task to task, instead of having one team working on a deadline within like a week or a month, and another team working within 3 weeks and that kind of thing, and you're all kind of like huddled together after once a month sort of thing, at the end of the month, you're like, okay, how are we on these like sort of schedules? That might work a lot in a lot of different cases, but if you literally just say, okay, this is the tasks that we're going to do like this week and that kind of thing, don't allot a time, however long it takes. to do the job right and do it perfectly is however long it takes to do the job right and do it perfectly. Obviously, the sentimental of rationality, and how much time do you actually give towards a given task before you make a cheap workaround in a code, and maybe paste some Laravel code from online, that sort of thing. But basically, those tasks themselves, if you're going to make a product that you're proud of, you've got to do it right. You just got to go for it. But whatever works for you, like however you want to manage it is however you want to manage it. But I fully recommend that if you go from task to task to task, you make a really perfect product that goes all the way through from start to finish as best you can. And and if you need to make changes along the way, then you can make those changes along the way, and the entire team could just suddenly at the drop of a hat, okay, you can create like a sense of crises within the development team, whether it be 20 strong or whatever, and then basically say, right, okay, we've hit a road bump, some kind of technology framework is pulling out of their support, so we've got to change our framework, or some kind of one of the venture capitalists is doing something or other, and something's hit them financially or whatever, and we've got to make some shifts and do something about that, or it could be anything mundane or anything like that, but basically environmental factors and that kind of thing, whatever it may be. But basically, if you have that task by task, whether it be daily, I recommend daily, then basically you've given yourself so much agility, the business model so much agility, that you can shift with the market and shift with the times as quick as you need to do, and that will probably get your product out there not only a lot more quickly, but also a product that is more beneficial for the market, more lucrative as well, and also has a lot more a sort of a better product. So you just got to sort of go for it with 2 thumbs up.